I'm thinking about leadership a lot. I think about leading because that's just my lifestyle. Is am I somebody worth following? Am I leading well in any capacity? And so my statement I want to start with is lead before you have a leadership role. And this is to many people. Um, so many people. I don't have time to get into the mindsets that people have that they deserve certain things. I don't have time for that because I think that's a lot of nonsense most of the time. People think they deserve a role. Do they deserve a platform or whatever it might be? But are you leading before you ever get a position of leadership? Because a good leader is doing exactly that. They're leading before they're noticed as a leader. That's a good leader. Many people are put in positions that never deserved it, never should be there, don't respect it, all that. But a couple of thoughts I have in this area is good leaders, obviously you've probably heard this, is that they're good followers. A good leader is a good follower first. And so I wanted to just think, have people think about that is, why is that true? Because to be a good follower, you are observing, you're growing, you're learning, you're adapting. And so you almost have to steward the ability to follow first. And then through that, you get to respect and acknowledge and really just see the importance of not just following, but what are you following? So my challenge is for leaders or people, seeing that they are probably meant to be a leader, is what are you following? Because a good leader is following traits, not a person. A good leader is following first, following character, or following attitude. They're following attributes that they see as important and crucial for other people to live by. And so in that, here's my bigger thought, is a good leader, this I'm talking about before you're ever a leader with a role as a leader, a good leader convinces themselves first that they're worth following. Think about that. Before you become in a leadership role, position, influence, are you convinced that you are worth following? Not you as a person, but the way that you live, your lifestyle, your character, what you represent. Are you convinced that you're worth following? That has to be number one. So these are just a couple thoughts to prepare those in leadership, striving to be, feeling the call that they are an influential person. How are you stewarding that? Like, are you convinced that you're worth following? Maybe not. If not, what are you doing about it? Who are you following? What characteristics, traits, attitudes, attributes, what lifestyle are you following, observing, learning from, growing from, adapting? Like, what is it? Because that's what makes a good leader. I'm not talking about just anybody with a position. No, that's what makes a good leader, is someone that learns how to follow and is convinced that they're worth following. That who they are, their conduct, their lifestyle, what they represent is worth following. And so that is my question, I think. But also just, I think we have to self-evaluate. Can I answer that question honestly? That I'm convinced I'm worth following. My life is worth following. I'm coming from a place of, God is first in my life. And so do I reflect godly standards? Do I reflect biblical truths and humility? Like the attributes that Christ came and demonstrated and made an example of. Do I reflect those? Do I fight my pride? Do I put others first? Do I, those matter to make a good leader. We can argue that, but I'm not going there. That's just where I stand. My authority is the truth of God, His standard. Because once everything else passes away, nothing else matters. but how he sees me. And does my life line up to him, his standard, his desires, his heartbeat? And so there's just some, I would say a lot of these elements and points are across the board, but they are so crucial, especially for a believer in Christ. And so in leading from that, if you're leading from being a believer and follower of Jesus, these things matter even more. Does your life represent him? And are you convinced that how you live, who you represent, are you worth following? Are you convinced? Because you're not convincing nobody if you're not convinced. And so these are just a couple thoughts. I pray that these help one person. If this helps one person, just to maybe see your life different, see your influence different, because guess what? You're leading sometimes without ever knowing it. Somebody, if not many, are observing you. They're potentially following you. And so don't be ignorant towards that. Ignorant is not bliss. It's deception. So be aware that other people are observing you. Many people are against you, but there's some people that are observing how you live and who you are, potentially following you. So you're potentially leading them. Don't ignore your influence. Don't ignore your potential to lead well. Don't ignore it. Don't avoid it. Acknowledge it. Be aware of it. And then step into that factor of, would you follow you? Are you convinced you're worth following? And adjust to it. Realign if you have to. All right. God bless you guys. These are just literally some on-the-spot thoughts. I figure I would just share very candidly. And I pray it helps somebody. God bless y'all.